Hello, welcome back to the show. I think the audio is working. I'm sorry about yesterday. I had my mic a little further out than usual, and that caused the audio to be absolute not great. Let's get right into it, guys. The so we're talking about the T-bill here, the Treasury yield. Sorry, topping 2%. This isn't great news, but the inflation rate's 7.5%. So to cover what this is basically the Fed taking. I keep hanging out on the Ledger website because I'm thinking of buying another wallet. Actually, if you've seen the hardware things that you can tap in the letter, it's quite interesting. You see that the VIX is quite high up today, so there's a lot of fear in the market. The Nasdaq is down about 1.5%, and we'll look into the crypto market, but you can see here that we're up 1.5%. So we can now say that they've decoupled, right? The stocks and Bitcoin have decoupled, which is good news. And it's acting more like a hedge against inflation rather than a correlation to Nasdaq, because people are not considering these coins to be a tech sector. But let me explain how this inflation thing works. So they take, a sample of how much this stuff, and I'm just using this as an example, but it could be literally anything, right? It could be this, it could be this, this thing. It's a time thing, right? Or this mouse. How much was it last year, and how much is it this year? And according to them, these people, on average, things have gone up 7.5%. Right? That's the cost. That's the amount it's gone up. Now, what does this mean for the average person? That means everything's gotten more expensive. Of course, that makes more sense. Now, do wages go up 7.5% as well? Most times, no. Right? So it affects the lower middle class a lot more. But the other thing that really affects the lower middle class is do they have assets that appreciate with inflation? For example, housing, right? Housing it appreciates with inflation. Crypto appreciates with inflation. But does housing? No. So these kind of things are troublesome for the lower middle class. They don't own these things. So if you want to get out of the lower middle class, if you're there, if you want to get out of the middle class, if you're there, you want to start buying assets. And you have a plethora of choices, of course, right? You can go anything from crypto, you can go down to, there's so many options that you have. But right, so it's an interesting time, I think, for sure. But it's what this really means is that come March, we're going to see the interest rate increase, right? And that's going to bring these stocks down even more, which means, and I wonder what this means, because I'm curious now as to what this means for the U.S. dollar. Let's put this in here. Let's see if because let's switch to the DX DY. Oh man, dude, why? Oh, I see Forex. DX. Oh man. I mean, I want to see. Oh, sorry, DXY. Let's see. Okay, so we're going down. So so inflation is high. Now, I wonder what this was when we announced that the last Fed meeting resulted in a huge spike, right? And I wonder what's going to happen next. And this huge spike correlated to this huge dip that we saw, right? This dip right here, this entire dip. So I wonder what's going to happen next. If with the inflation high as it is, it's not good for the dollar. It's certainly coming down, and that helps Bitcoin. And people are running away from other assets and coming to Bitcoin because it's a hedge against inflation, which is why we see this increase in price that we've seen. I think we're up. What are we at? We're up, about 10%. Wow, it's a wild jump actually. But the question is now, what is the next move, right? Are we going to continue going up? And what really happens? Well, before I leave inflation, inflation is, I mean, I would say if it stays this high, it's a good thing for Bitcoin because people are going to transfer funds into Bitcoin. If they start handling inflation, I could tell you that it's not a great thing for Bitcoin, and the reason is people are going to move away from the Bitcoin and from Bitcoin to the US dollar. Now, weirdly, these lights make me yawn. I don't know why. It doesn't make me sneeze, but they make me yawn. I don't know why. It's so weird. But I genuinely wonder what is the next move here for Bitcoin, because we're also approaching this this line, right? This is the bull market support band, and if I was to draw this out, I'm of course averaging. So we've come down, and so we're probably going to see it come down like this, right? We are, and I can see this thing maybe like we I don't know how long it takes. Maybe the next session or the session after, we could get a wick up to here. We're not very far away. We're about 2,000, less than 2,000 away, about 1,500. That's actually very small. That's not a lot at all. The real question though, is if we're going to hit it and come down, or if we're going to break through and then, try to do something like this, or, if we hit the top there and then come down. What is the game plan? This is the interesting question. This is what we have to determine. And I don't, and to be frank, I don't think we can determine it. We just have to wait and see. And we continue dollar cost averaging. And speaking of dollar cost averaging, the transactions are not going through for whatever reason. I'm not sure why. Maybe I need to get the premium plan here or something, but they're not showing up, which is a little bit annoying because I thought CoinTracker was going to do what we expected it to do. But that my plan is to continue DCAing in, and at 50,000 I'll probably stop and start putting lump sums in or something. But I do expect resistance here, because when we're below the bull market support band, it is a resistance band, right? And us to come back, retest maybe 40 or maybe even lower, and see what happens, because we have a long way to go. I don't think we're out of the woods, at least for Q1, right? At the least for Q1, let's say up until like right here, maybe we have a long way to go. There's a lot of time. I don't think we're gonna break through, and then there's a lot of time. So these are things that we should probably consider. But aside from that, I don't really have much else to say. Though, what I did, I was doing a lot of thinking, and I wondered so we have some sentiment on the market now. So if the inflation is going up, this means that Bitcoin is considered a hedge against inflation, for sure. And we now know the correlation that we had between Nasdaq and Bitcoin is now broken, which is great. We didn't want that interlinking, right? We wanted a counter to this. I don't know why. It's these bright lights. But it's phenomenally interesting. And I think it's interesting because people are definitely considering they're running away from the inflation, right? They don't want to lose all their cash, and here's growth right here. It's terrible for tech stocks that inflation is so high, because that means come March they're going to raise interest rates like quite high, and that's going to affect tech stocks pretty badly. And so you can imagine there's going to be a sell-off, and I wouldn't be totally surprised if we saw I mean, the inflation rate's high, dude. It is like, this is the highest it's been since 84 or 82 is what they said, something like that, which is like a pretty absurd number. So that means that, I mean, we've had a recession every time we've tried to do QT, quantitative tightening. So my suspicion is that we are going into a recession come the next several months, years, to deal with inflation. So that means I'm probably going to take most of my things out of stocks, I would think, and probably pile more into Bitcoin. Though then we do wonder, well, if everything sells off significantly, I imagine Bitcoin will also sell off. And there's an interesting theory here. The theory goes that we have a bunch of people that have, let's say, they either have long or short positions, but leveraged. Okay, so and it's irrelevant if it's long or short for this example, but let's say that we are headed to a downtrend. And this is going to explain why Bitcoin might crash as well if equities crash in a downturn, a heavy downturn. If everyone's short or long leveraged, let's say the crypto market, let's say Nasdaq goes down and you're leveraged 100x to the up, and it goes down. Well, you're going to be margin called, right? So you're gonna have to pay that stuff off, and you're gonna have to liquidate what you got to do to pay off the thing. So you pay off the thing, but then you're out of cash. So where do you get the cash from? Well, then maybe you liquidate your crypto to pay for what you got to pay for. And this is how these, because the same guys as 100x leverage, 100x forward, Nasdaq probably has something in crypto or maybe some other asset. And all of these assets are linked together, right? Except, I mean, housing is the one that's a little bit less liquid because, I mean, to go through the process of getting a mortgage is, I mean, remortgage is not a next day thing. It's months, weeks. And so this would be the idea that they're all interlinked like this, and when one person gets fucked, everyone kind of else goes along with it, and they grab money from some other market to, pay down their thing, their short or long position. This is the idea. I hope I explained that well. I kind of just did stitch that together, but it seems to explain why this thing can occur like the way it does. But let us check back in tomorrow and see what the vibes are like and see how we're doing. I would suspect crypto keeps going up, and then we hit resistance here at this band at the bottom of the bull market support, and that's where we start struggling. And I don't know what we do there. I don't know if we go break through or if we come down and then test and go up. Like, we need some real strength, and I don't say this is not strength. I'll tell you that I don't think this is not strength. So we need to figure out what the next move is. But let us see. We'll check again tomorrow. By the way, if you like the stuff, subscribe, like, or comment. It helps me a lot, right? It's I'm doing this, but I lose a little bit of motivation here and there, and it would be nice to have something. If anyone knows why my chart doesn't load all the way, that would be great as well. I'll see you guys soon.